Hi, Kelly. What's up, dude?
What's going on? How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. Hey, so we got a couple other guys in here that are in the program with me. We've got Cade and Brooks. So, I don't know if they can stay the whole time tonight. So typically you and I talk the whole time, but we might just get started. And when they've got a question, I'm just gonna have them raise their hand or write it in the chat, and we can just go to their questions first if that's cool with you.
Perfect. Yeah, whatever you want to do.
Love it, bro. Dude, tell me about, we'll just jump right in if that's cool with you.
Sure. Absolutely.
Where are you at right now? You just got back home?
No, I'm in Florida. So I'm finishing the season here in Florida for I was here last week and then we have one more week and then that's it. So it's like it's called the Bridge League now. It's like the answer to the draft being in July. It's all
Okay.
just like complicated roster stuff. So it's like there's no instructs really anymore. It's the way that the draft guys get at bats and get games. Um,
Instead of them just missing a year when they sign, they get nothing.
yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
they play their college season, then they get drafted now in July instead of in June like before.
Hmm.
And then so the season just like ends basically like a couple weeks after the draft. So this is how they get extra games, even though the stats don't count or anything. It's their it's basically their first season, even though everything's uh kind of weird now.
But that sounds way better, honestly. Like that first year when you play a full college season and you show up and you go, like I went to the GCL and then short season, that was the biggest grind of my life. Like, and that was such a wake up call going from like a bigger college program. I think you'd be in the same boat. Did you have to go to the lower levels right off the bat?
Yeah, I went to short season. I went to the Penn League,
Okay,
which is
so
a great
same.
league. Yeah.
It was great, dude, but man, being in Lowell, like we were living in the dorms. Here's a little story for you. So I showed up when I was 23 years old, fifth year senior, got drafted. I go to the GCL and I'm like, I've never heard the sound of balls hitting chain link fences, not playing in front of anybody. Like we went from playing in Omaha to like just it felt terrible and I hated it. And then I got to short season to Lowell and we lived at the dorms and I showed up. I didn't have a car. I didn't know a single guy on the team. And I didn't have sheets on the bed, no pillow, no towel. And so I lived like that for like 2 days. Like I walked to a grocery store to try to get a towel, and they had this beach towel that when I showered, it like fell apart all over my body of just like grossness. Like, dude, that first year was the biggest grind of my life without question. So this system sounds a lot better. You get integrated in Florida, get to know the coaches, get to know your teammates, stats don't count. Like that doesn't sound bad.
Yeah, and just the conditions in the minor leagues are a lot better now in general.
Yes.
Like nobody's grinding like that anymore, thankfully.
Yeah, thank God.
Everybody's got their housing paid for and everything. And I'm surprised you guys didn't have a better introduction, like with host families and stuff like that. When my first year, I had a host family in Aberdeen, and that was a super nice stadium too. Like we actually got fans, like they sold out every night, which was really cool.
Dang, that's
Um,
nice.
yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, like completely sold out. It was a pretty small stadium, but I mean, what like 4,000 something like that, 4,000 fans
That's
a
game
night.
changer. Playing in front of fans, Lowell was pretty good too, but playing in fans is a big difference compared to not. That's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's tough to play like spring training games, and it was also just a very random thing. Playing in the Olympics and in the COVID Olympics was like that. Also, was
Mm.
really weird. Um, no fans or anything. It was like we knew that it was a big deal. It was the Olympics, but it felt like spring
Oh,
training games.
and
Very strange.
that was in Tokyo. You had no fans
In Tokyo, yeah.
in the Tokyo Dome.
In Yokohama.
Oh, dude, that place is sweet.
Yeah. And so we just played basically spring training games there.
Oh, dude, I did not realize that was still code because that was 2021 Olympics, but was it
Hmm.
it was in 2021?
In 2021, yeah, the 2020 Olympics in 21.
Okay, so well, we played together in 21. You were
Yeah,
kind of starting to get ready. So that was the end of our season when you were going to go off and do that.
that was the middle of the season because they were in July.
Okay.
So that was I got there in like in May, which was basically like the beginning of the season
Yeah.
because it was a push back a month. And then in July, Negron released me right before the Olympics. I was his first release, and he felt so bad.
Oh
He
man, I
was
wish
like,
I could have
dude,
been in there.
yeah. He was like, man, like I'm a really big fan of you, and you've been playing so well too. And I was like, it's fine. Like I've already had my career in the past. It's no big deal. You're gonna have to, like, your next release is gonna be way harder than this one. This one is not. It's not a huge deal.
That's hilarious, dude. Honestly, I've had Reinheimer on here where we've talked, and like anytime I think back to that season, that was the most fun I've ever had playing baseball. Like I
It
think
was
there's
fun.
something about it was just the group, and for me being in Tacoma, it was so beautiful. I lived by the water. It was just like my wife was pregnant with our first child. I was just like in heaven every day. So I always look back on that year playing with you. That was so much fun.
Yeah. No, that was fun. I love Tacoma too, and I was there. I got to coach there last year, which was really
Oh, of
fun.
course.
Yeah, that was my first coaching role last year, and just summertime is just beautiful. My girlfriend, my fiance now, was out there also for the season. She moved up from LA, and she loved it. She's trying to get me to move back full time. She had such a fun experience, but she also showed up the day that it stopped
Yeah,
being cold and then left literally the day that it started raining. So she was there
the
for
perfect
like
time.
4 months, and yeah, when it's just perfect every day.
I
So,
was gonna
and
ask if she spent any time in the winter there because I bet it's rough. Because man, it gets cold, but I can't imagine just gray skies every day. That would be tough.
no, it's so like the first month of the season is so cold. I honestly had forgotten how cold it was for from like April through maybe the middle of May, so sometimes a little later. But like I was wearing so many layers coaching first
Oh,
and just immediately running back in to put gloves on, beanie, everything that I could, freezing. But yeah, but my fiance got there like and like truly the day that it stopped raining. I was like, oh, this is nice. Like, yeah, now it is. Like, I've just been grinding for the first month and a half of the season, just freezing. And then the day that she left, which was like the end of September, she went to get her hair done, and her hairdresser was talking to somebody else and was like, yeah, I was telling somebody just moved here, and I was telling them that like it's about to get bad, like just wait. And so she heard that, and then literally like as she was driving home to California, like it started raining, and it was just that
that's
was it, like the rainy season came.
so funny, dude.
Yeah.
I played some cold games, man. With the Red Sox, we were always up there in the cold. But dude, I gotta ask you, like, you just got back from the Dominican. Like, the video you posted of you speaking Spanish was so freaking impressive. Like, so you're 1,000,000% fluent now, and you've obviously spoken Spanish before, but not like this.
No, I still don't. I have a hard time saying that I'm fluent because I can definitely get by, and I can express myself, and I can do what I need to, especially in baseball. Like it took a long time, um, but yeah, I mean, I had 5 months there to practice every day. To like the players really don't speak any English, so you that's the only way you can communicate. And so I definitely got a lot better. I do have a tough time saying like I'm fluent because there are still times like you've heard Dominicans, like it's so slangy, so fast, and there are a lot
So
of times
fast.
that they talk and I'm just like I still don't know what you're talking about. You just try and get bits and pieces and put it together. Um, but yeah, it's a constant process, and like I'm lucky. So I did in college take classes. I took a couple years of Spanish in college and then obviously in high school, but it's so different. Like you learn how to conjugate verbs, you learn tenses and stuff like that, and then you don't really ever have conversations with anyone. I hated going to Spanish when I was in college. I stopped when I was a junior. I knew I was going to get drafted, and I literally just stopped going to Spanish because I was like, I don't want to get called on in class. I'm done going. Like I'll go take the final and just try and pass, but like I'm not getting called out again in class. I hated it so much. But so yeah, it's nice now to be at the point where like I basically do English classes for the players where we do like
That's cool.
communication. Yeah, it's like infield, outfield communication, stuff like that, where I'm just, teaching them English phrases that they don't really know or that they get wrong, and try and get them to not feel that same fear that I had going to class, where it's like just speak. It's you're going to get better if you practice, and it's not going to help you to be nervous about talking. So yeah, I've made a good turnaround, but I'll, give me some more time, and I'll consider myself fluent.
Yeah, I'd say you're pretty damn close, if not all the way. But so you mentioned you got drafted as a junior and you knew you were going to get drafted. Like, were you just having going on a tear of a season, or did you get drafted in high school as well?
No, I was way too small in high school. I was tiny, and there was no way. I have video of myself in high school, and no chance. I mean, the fact that somebody thought I could play college baseball is crazy.
How much did you
But
weigh?
I mean, I weighed probably. I mean, my senior year, I weighed more. I weighed like as much as I do now, but like as a sophomore and junior, I mean, I probably weighed like 150, 160 pounds, which is too small and too bad at everything. Zero flow to anything, bad mechanics, everything bad.
I think I
Um,
was the same.
yeah, but I mean, like you watch high school kids now, and it's
It's
just a
insane.
completely different game. Guys are so good. They know. I mean, they know more than probably I ever knew at any point in my career, just from watching guys like you on Instagram, being able to like just pick up mechanics and stuff here and there, stuff that we never had. But yeah, I got drafted as a junior. My sophomore year, I led the Big West in hitting, in batting average. Back when batting average was like the main thing that mattered. And yeah, I went to the Cape after that. I did well. I made the All-Star team. And so I knew I was going to get drafted. I didn't have like a crazy junior year. We went from winning 33 or 34 games as a sophomore. We went to a regional, like a really good team. To the next year, everyone on our team got drafted that was eligible, and we won 13 games.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, a real grind. But yeah, so I did well enough to get drafted. I ended up going 13th round. Um, and yeah, I knew that I was gonna sign pretty much. I was ready to go.
I believe that, man. 13 games, that's tough. My senior year in college, we were 500, and that was like one of the hardest times of my life, like just losing that many games. So I can't imagine 13. That is really hard. And you feel like so much weight on your shoulders, especially being a senior, fifth year senior. It was like, man, this is my time to kind of take the torch. And that was tough for sure. So 13, that's wild. And you talk about how good these high school players are now. I think it's insane compared to what we had. And the pitching, I mean, the velo in high school and college now, like I'm down the street from TCU and these guys are all pumping on the bullpen. Late inning guys are 97. I mean, so your mechanics and strength and everything has to be so dialed in at such a younger age now. Like I think the game of baseball is about to be insane. I mean, I can't even imagine 10 years from now what pitches, swings are going to look like.
Yeah, it's hard to. I mean, so like I feel like the only downside is that there are so many injuries now, and I definitely wonder what the long-term effect of everyone just throwing as hard as they can like is going to be. I mean, I think I haven't done the research. I'm assuming that this is all true, that like guys going out there and just throwing as hard as they can is what is leading to a lot of the injuries from pitchers, and guys just getting as big as they can, lifting as much as they possibly can, is leading to more injuries position player wise as well. Um, so I think it's really interesting to think about what is going to happen development wise. Like I think we're already seeing things start to swing back in the other direction. Or if you just look at something like four seams, like everybody was throwing four seams everyone made adjustments to that. Now there's a lot more two seams back in baseball after that was like completely phased out. So I think that everything's going to swing back some amount. Um, but yeah, guys are so good, and they're just pushing the limits of what is possible with with a human body, with just regular human physicality, and it's very impressive to watch, and hopefully everyone just keeps developing, and then we'll get to watch guys throwing 105, 110, and they're going to have to actually move the mounds back.
Right. And man, I'm in for that. Push those mounds back. I'm definitely down for that. It's
I did
scary up
that
there.
in 21 also. When I got back from the Olympics, I went out to Long Island to play indie ball,
That's right.
and that was when they moved the mounts back a foot to try and to see if that was going to work, which
How'd it
was
go?
insane. If everything felt a lot slower and a lot flatter, I mean, it was really weird. And so you remember Ryan Dole
Yeah,
went
yeah.
out there, who was
Snacks.
just like, yeah, slider, 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 and he was nasty. And then he went out there and couldn't throw a slider because there was an extra foot that he had to throw it. And so there was no such thing as a back foot slider because it was just breaking too early. The only good sliders were like up to arm side basically, that came in at the top of the zone. So I mean, it really changed everything. It was very interesting, but definitely a 95 mile an hour fastball probably felt more like 92. It was much easier to hit,
Do you think it's
but I don't
possible
know.
that baseball will ever move to that, or just with stats and that would be a hard sell, I feel like.
It would be very hard.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think anybody really got hurt. I know that was a big concern that guys were going to have to throw that extra foot and it was going to get guys hurt. I don't think that really happened. I think it was just a real like, why why are we
Yeah.
being forced to do this? It's
Oh,
crazy. They've
I can't
tried
imagine the
everything in that league.
frustration. Yeah. And you know what? That stinks for the players, but I get that they're trying to throw some stuff and see what sticks. It's not the worst idea from their perspective, but um well, dude, so a couple things like what you just got back from the Dominican, your first year with the Rays, like what are some things that you feel like you saw and learned in the Dominican from these kids at a young age that what they're doing that are American? I've got a bunch of high school kids in the program and some college guys. Like, what are some things they could take away what you learned from these kids in the Dominican that they can start utilizing or some stuff they should be doing that you think would be a good idea?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing, the biggest difference between the Dominican academies and organized high school and college baseball is just that the guys in the States have so much more experience and they've trained so much more with a team on bunt plays, first and third plays, on hit and runs, and like they know what everything in baseball already is. And in the Dominican, they've essentially trained their whole lives to only get signed. So they swing as hard as they can. They just try and hit home runs, throw as hard as they can so that they can sign with the team. And then it's the team's job in the academy to start teaching them baseball. So I think it's a huge advantage for the guys in the States to be able to play baseball and know baseball and the rules. Like guys in the Dominican get there and then we go, okay, we're going to do a round of a hit and run, move them over, whatever. And they get in there and they take the hit and run. And then we have to stop the drill and go, do you know what a hit and run is? And they go, no, I don't know. And it's
Wow.
that they've never had the coaching of like, of the rules of baseball and of what the little intricacies in baseball are. They've swung a million times. They've swung. They've thrown. They've fielded, and that's the extent to how they've trained. So I think as far as what can guys in the States take from that, it's in my opinion to work on yourself as individuals, which is the thing that they've done. But you already get the coaching from whatever high school team you're on, travel ball team, whatever it is. You're getting you're understanding baseball and how it works on such a more intricate level that if you can develop yourself as an individual in the way that professionals do in an off season, for example, like I think that's going to give you sort of the complete package of of knowing baseball, being able to step into a team and help a team win, make winning plays, but also being able to look at yourself as an individual that provides value at some point to a major league team with those, with how hard you throw and with how hard you can hit the ball, things like that. In my opinion, it's just kind of putting it all together as sort of a complete package.
Makes total sense. I mean, I certainly wish that if I could go back in my career, look back at my college self, I wish I would have zoomed out or looked in the mirror a little bit more of like, man, what do I really need to get better on? Because the only focus in college was, man, we got to win games. We want Omaha. Omaha is Omaha on your mind. Like that was it. And I really bought into that because that was all I knew. I wish I would have years and years before. And that's one thing. I mean, Brooks, especially you with this offseason, we've kind of really taken a look at his swing and what some not deficiencies totally, but like some things that really we could work on to get him to the next level. And so it's been a pretty pro style fall or off season for him. And I don't know about you, Brooks. I feel like this has been a pretty big time for you to be able to make some of these adjustments.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I think this has been the best offseason of my career, to be honest.
Let's go. Love to hear it. Brooks, you have anything, any questions that I mean, so man, so Ty played in the big leagues, Ty, how long did you play in the minors before you got called up?
I was in my eighth season, I think, before I got called up. Drafted in 2009, and then in 2016 in May, I got called up for the first time.
So that's a grind, but
Nice.
that's awesome.
It's a
So
long
Brooks,
time.
what you got, Brooks?
Uh, I actually have quite a few questions. First off, when did y'all play together?
We played together in 21, and
Okay.
for a couple months in 21 in Tacoma.
Okay.
Yeah, before I had already retired actually in 2019 at the end of the season. And then I retired so that I could go out to the European Championship, which was the Olympic qualifier. And so we ended up qualifying for the Olympics. And then so I sort of had to keep playing. 2020 got canceled. And then so 21, I was getting ready to play, ended up getting signed by the Mariners. And then that's where we played together.
And that was for
Gotcha.
Team Israel in the Olympics, dude. That's so cool. That's such
That's
a
sick.
bummer that y'all had no freaking fans for the Olympics.
No fans. Everyone, there was already like 100 positive COVID cases
Oh
by
my
the time we
God.
even got to the Olympics. So everyone was like completely separate. It was
Uh,
all everyone was just like, don't be near me, like because if you test positive, you don't get to compete in your event. So yeah, it was tough.
that's wild.
Okay, and then so I'll start with like what's something that you know now that you wish you would have known maybe back in high school on the baseball side of things.
So
Yeah,
Ty,
I
really quick, I'm so sorry to cut you off. Brooks is committed to go to University Air Force. He's an absolute stud athlete. He's got every tool, super mature up top, and he just recently committed. So he's a pretty high level dude. So whatever you're about to say, like you could treat him like a pretty professional guy.
yeah, absolutely. No, I think kind of like I was saying before that to be able to think of yourself, you're going to go to a place that I'm assuming is going to be very regimented, is going to teach you all of the finer points of baseball and teach you how to be a team player in every sense of that term. So I think that's all awesome. I think that the ability to start to see who you are as a player, start to figure that out, and to try and form your game around that is very important if you're trying to continue progressing and taking your game to the next level. So I wish that I was able to do that. I wish I was able to pay more attention to, especially in the big leagues. As I was coming up through the minors, I was not good at paying. I didn't care about like what was going on in the big leagues. I didn't know what good baseball looked like. So I was always very like focused only on my game every day. Like I would show up to the field, go through my batting practice, go through grounders and all that, and that was it. I never thought about anything else. But I think the best way that I've been able to learn more recently has been just watching the highlights of big league games, watching as much Major League Baseball as possible, and just seeing what good plays look like, seeing what good swings look like, seeing what's possible basically from the best of the best. And the more I've paid attention to that, the more I'm able to for one, now as a coach, I'm able to judge what's going on the field in front of me rather than just comparing in the Dominican Summer League one good player to another good player there. That's not the end goal. So in your case, a good player on your team is not going to be, you know, the best player in the big leagues right away. So I think that always reminding yourself of one, what's possible, but also it's something to strive towards. So if you're what position do you play?
I'm an outfielder.
Out like center field, right field, or
Mainly center, but sometimes right and left.
okay. So if you look at great center fielders in the big leagues right now, just take, I don't know, just take Julio Rodriguez or something like that, like a good center fielder, good hitter, and you just sort of watch, okay, what does he do? What does his pre-pitch look like? What do his routes look like? His first step, like what do all these things look like? And you compare yourself to the best of the best. I think that can help you a lot and put it all into perspective and go, okay, these are the things I need to work on because this is my goal someday to be able to compete with someone like that. And what does he do? How can I do it better? And so that was the thing that I wish I had been able to sort of look outside my whatever team I was on and kind of put it all into perspective like that.
That's super cool. That's interesting that you say that too, because that's something me and Jansen have been actually looking at over the past few weeks is swing comparisons and looking at how mine looks compared to how this elite level MLB hitter looks. And it's similar, but it's also really different. And so I think just as I've been looking through that, I'm like, if this is what I want to be, then I'm gonna have to work for it. And I think I have the work ethic to do that. But that's interesting that you say that you just
No,
have
that's
to
awesome.
like look outside the box and at what it could be. So that's super cool.
Absolutely.
Ty, go ahead.
What hitters are you comparing yourself to right now? Just
Yeah, this is a
illustration
Rays
stuff.
guy here, Brooks.
Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah, so I actually have been comparing myself to Brandon Lau. I think Lau is how you say it.
Yeah.
Ty,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
so
Yeah,
send you
that's
a
awesome.
side by side. It's pretty close. Like it's definitely a
Yeah.
good comp, which is so nice to have a comp of who you know you can compare
Mhm.
yourself to. Like it took me way too long to find that for myself.
100%. For me, it's the easiest way to, if you see somebody that moves like a certain player, just put them side by side, look at the where it's different. Yeah, it's the easiest way to just go, all right, there's something that's kind of off about this, but I'm not exactly sure what it is. Put it next to the other guy. Okay, this guy's a little bit further on his backside, a little further on his front side, whatever it is. It just makes it much easier.
And
That's super
Ty, I
cool.
really everything you just said, man, I agree with it so wholeheartedly. Like I feel like I was the same way. I was just focused on myself. I'm just gonna come do my job. If I play well, I'll get the opportunity. But now with YouTube, you can watch highlights from the entire league. They have like these 9-minute clips that are really good. It's not just homer, homer, homer. It's like, ground out, double play, fly out. You get to see some defense. Like the YouTube clips I've seen, I think it's from the MLB that post them. They are really, really cool. Actually, Reinheimer is the one who told me about it. And so I've been checking those out, and I would suggest that for players as well. Like, because I don't know about you, Ty. Like when you play a minor league season, there's no time to watch big league games. Like you play at the same times. And so now with YouTube that you can go on the next morning or after the game and watch what these guys are doing in all facets of the game. I think it's really, really, really cool. That's really good insight you just dropped.
Yeah, those condensed games are game changer for sure. Just being able to, like you said, it's not just like clips of home runs, which are great
Sports Center,
for,
that's what it used to be.
exactly.
And it
Yeah,
made
but
me feel
now
like
you
a turd. I'm like, all these guys do is hit homers.
did you ever um well, you never got called up at any point. Is that
Never,
correct?
bro. I only played, I mean, big leagues in Japan, and here it was minor leagues whole career.
Are there like is there like an ESPN of Japan like for highlights that like more than like a local news highlights or anything like that?
Great question. To be honest, I didn't turn on that TV much. I really don't even know. I mean, it was always like some weird stuff on TV at the field, to be honest with you. Like almost game show, like a lot of game shows and a lot of news.
Yeah. I didn't have that many highlights in the big leagues like that were going to show up on MLB Network or whatever. But the times that I did, I always tried to like get home as fast as possible and
Oh, I hear you.
just
I
to
hear you.
watch the highlight on TV.
So I
Because
got some highlights on YouTube, like their version of the NPB YouTube clips that I have. Yes, but that's pretty dope to run home and watch on TV, watch yourself. That's pretty cool.
yeah, just I mean, just lucky that I had a pronounceable name for the like Sports Center people that there's no reason that they would know who I was. Just
That's
lucky that
cool.
they didn't like go, oh, and a base hit by
White.
try to pronounce
Johnson
this.
Whittle.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's hilarious, dude. Dude, that was a great answer for Brooks. Brooks, you got something else? Then we'll
Yeah.
go to Kate too.
So if
Actually, let's message him.
I guess like what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
So I think that and I was just thinking of this a second ago, that I had he was an infield coach at the time. His name's Bobby Dickerson. There's a good chance that you've seen some of his clips working with infielders, especially with the Orioles, over the last like 10 years or so. I think he's with the Phillies now. He's been with the Padres, Phillies, various teams in the big leagues. But the thing he told me back when I was with the Orioles when I first got drafted that really has stuck with me, is, and I think really relates to what we've been talking about as far as like thinking outside of our game to game, day to day, whatever it is that you've got to beat the league to keep moving up, to force the organization's hand, especially when you get to professional baseball or if you're trying to get drafted. Like you can't just settle on being a decent player on your team, somebody that settles in as like, okay, I'm hitting six today or whatever, and I'm doing pretty well. Like I'm putting up decent numbers. I'm holding my own. If you really want to, again, especially in professional baseball, if you want to force the organization's hand to move up to the next level, you have to beat the league, and that always stuck because up to that point, I was somebody that was hitting. I could hit like 280, 270, some in like a good batting average, a few extra base hits, steal a base here or there, play decent defense. But I was very content with just being one of the better players on the team, as opposed to trying to be one of the best players in the league. So that really stayed when I was evaluating myself, like we've been talking about. If you want to make the organization look at you in a different light as a prospect, or make major league organizations look at you as a college player and think this guy can be somebody that helps us out in the big leagues someday, I think that like it's a really good mindset to have. And there was one specific time in my career also that I like really started to believe this even more, is that I got a random call up to AAA from High A because a couple guys had gotten hurt in AAA. One guy got DFA'd, and so they were down like three players. A guy punched his helmet into the helmet rack, broke his thumb, and so it was just like all this stuff happened all overnight, and they had to call up me and a teammate of mine from High A. And so we went up to AAA. They didn't have any infielders because of all this stuff happening, and the guys in Double A couldn't get a flight out of wherever they were. So very random, very lucky, and I ended up starting right away. I got a hit the first game. Next game, got another hit, oppo double off the wall, and they ended up keeping me when we left the road trip to go back home. And so I ended up staying for about 3 weeks in AAA, held my own. I hit like 290 or so in those few weeks, was facing all the guys that I'd been watching on TV, guys that had been in the big leagues that were down in AAA, prospects that were up in AAA. Like it was the first time that I was really getting that experience as well, and to be able to hold my own against them when they finally did send me back to A ball after that, I had this whole new confidence of like, I am better than all these guys. These pitchers are not nearly as good as the guys in AAA that I was just facing, and so I was just like, there's no way that these guys are going to get me out. And so I finally like really believed in that, like I'm gonna just beat this league, get to the next level, and have that same confidence when I get up there. And it really just turned everything around for me. So I think that was the best advice. And then being able to just fully experience it and kind of like see it to believe it as well was, I mean, completely transformed my career and put me on the prospect map a little bit, and also just in my own mind, took me to the next level.
That's awesome.
Ty, you just spoke to my soul right there in so many ways. I mean, that is such valuable info that you got from that coach, and for you to take that and run with it. That's something that I have so much, man. Yeah, I have regret that I was complacent with where I was. I thought, man, I'm dependable. I play well. When the time comes, like they're gonna need me, but I did not force their hand as far as a player, and it's just pretty funny the timing of you dropped this. Brooks and I were together this morning, and we talked about that exact same thing about setting big goals. Like set crazy big goals and let that be your North Star and just strive for that every day. Like it helps you go to work every day. It helps you not put things off. And if you've got, 3 sets of 10 written on your sheet and your workouts, you won't stop at rep 6 or 7. You'll go ahead and do it because you're striving for something really important and really big. And so, and the fact that you also dropped that, you kind of saw it to believe it. And I mean, Brooks, that's exactly what we talked about today. I think that's
Yep.
so freaking cool. And Ty, it sounds like it revolutionized your career, which changed your life. I mean, and it was just a switch in your mind. Like what a simple trick to trick yourself and make this the best life you can possible. I'm so glad you dropped that, dude. That was awesome.
Well, 100%. And it also, you hear a lot of professional athletes talking about like a delusional confidence. And I think from then on, I had that delusional confidence of like truly I'm better than any pitcher that is out on that mound, no matter who it is. It's not that you disrespect them in any way. It's just that they're a pitcher. They throw pitches that you've seen before. And if you have a good game plan, if they miss over the plate, like it doesn't matter who it is. So you could be the best pitcher of all time. If they throw me a fastball over the plate, I'm gonna hit it. If they throw their best slider, I'm gonna take it for a ball. It's just having that delusional confidence really, I think, can take things over the top. And for me, truly did turn my career around just in a few weeks. So yeah, it was life changing. And I definitely, I think without that probably would have never, I mean, who knows what would have happened even the rest of that season. That was my third season in A ball, which in these days doesn't happen anymore. So it would have possibly have been tough to even like make it out of there. But I was hitting, I think, 280 at the time that I got called up. And then I finished when I got called up to Double A later in the season. My A ball numbers were I was hitting 330 with like 10 homers in a few months. So yeah, just turned everything around.
That's awesome. Well, I have one more kind of big question and other just like fun questions. So the big question would be like, if you haven't had any injuries or anything like that, just like have you ever had like a setback or a challenge that maybe threw you off course so much that you were like, all right, I need to make some changes. Like something needs to change for me to be able to continue to pursue my dreams or get where I want to go, I guess.
I so I never got injured. I was very lucky. And I also feel like I had really good control of my body, I guess. Like whenever I could feel something starting to nag, I knew how to not hurt myself, which I think is also very important. But I think that I guess my answer would be that I wish I could have done better with that as well. And you always hear about guys when they get sent down from the big leagues and what their response is going to be to getting sent down and how difficult it is, because you go back to AAA from the big leagues and you really have a decision of, are you going to make the most of your opportunity when you get back? Are you going to still put in your 100% every day and grind just like you were before you got called up? Or are you going to treat it like it's beneath you? And so I think that I didn't always do a great job of that. I think that I wish I had been able to get back to AAA after being in the big leagues and just put my head down and start working again. But it's really tough to do because the conditions are so much worse. You go from private jets and big league ballparks and having the batting cage right behind the dugout. You can be in there as much as you want during games and go sit in the air conditioned clubhouses that are beautiful and like go back to your Ritz-Carlton hotel room at night. It's so much easier than in the minors, where you're like, you may be in a motel room, you may pinch hit in the eighth inning of a freezing cold game with nowhere to warm up before you take your pinch hit at bat, and it just makes it really tough. And I don't think I did a good enough job at just putting my head down and going, this is just where I'm at now. There's no reason to complain because this is what I've got. And if I make the most out of these pinch hit at bats that I've got where I haven't warmed up, if I still take them seriously and don't just go, oh, well, it's an 0 for 1, I'll get them tomorrow, then I would have gotten back to the big leagues a lot quicker than I probably did at certain times. So, yeah, I wish I had done better. And I heard Jansen talk about this recently. Those pinch hit at bats in the minors, like you got nowhere to hit before you take your AB. You're just in the dugout doing jumping jacks, and then you got to go face 97, somebody's closer, and it's really, really hard. But it is what it is. It's your at bat for the day, and you're still being judged on it. And it doesn't matter how hard it is because it's the only thing that you have. So I wish I would have done better with just kind of putting the complaining aside and just like head down. This is what it is for the day, and if I get a hit, then maybe I get back to the big leagues quicker and don't have to keep complaining about this.
Gotcha.
Ty, have you seen this 5-minute journal? Brooks and I were talking about it today.
No.
Okay. Do you journal at all or every day or any process like that? You're so smart. I know you like to write.
I like to write for sure, but I think most of my journaling is done with my fiance now on our daily call.
Sure. Well, it's just interesting to talk about. Like, I just started doing it. It's called this 5-minute journal, and it literally takes 5 minutes. And it has like 3 lines. It has prompts to give you where it's like questions, like, in the morning, it's like, what could you do today to make this an incredible day? And you write it down when you wake up. What's something that you feel grateful about? And you write it down. Like, if I would have had something like that, we could always look back and say, man, if I would have done that now, like I'm doing it today and it has already changed my life. And I'm just thinking about players like you in that exact situation where you're in the show, life is amazing. You get sent down. Now you're in Scranton or, somewhere where it's not even comparable. But man, if you had that 2 minutes in the morning and 2 minutes at night where you just set your intentions and set your goals and do your affirmations, like that's something that I want all my guys to start doing now. And it's asking a lot of a high school kid to do that. But I feel like if you buckle down and do the little things like that, if you're serious about your game or even your life, it's you could not even calculate of what a difference it's going to make on your career and your life. So I would recommend to you this 5-minute journal, dude. I'm all in. I think it's really cool and something that you would really take to for sure.
100%. And that's just a great place to start mentally in general for your day. Like, instead of waking up and going, I've got a million things to do today. I've got to do this. I've got to go to class. I got to go to the store. I got to do all these different things. I got to get gas. And how am I going to have time to do all this stuff? And starting the day from a place of just being like scattered and there's so much stuff going on. So going, all right, it's a beautiful day. Like, what thing am I appreciative of? What can I work on today? And then get to your list of things that you've got to do. But after breathing for a little bit first, like, I think it's such a great way to start the day. And like we've been talking about, also just being able to think outside of yourself and just the thing that you're focused on, of like, what am I appreciating, and also like who am I as a person today, and what things are happening around me that I can take a second to think about and just try and accept in my life. So I think that's awesome, and yeah, I think that's great for whether it's baseball or not. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, Jansen, I'm buying the journal like after I get off this call. I just need to talk to my dad.
Let's go. I love it.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions for Ty?
I appreciate your time with the serious stuff. I'm just Jansen, appreciate you too bringing him on. This is huge.
Bro, Ty, how cool is this, dude? Like, we've got two guys on here, and I really feel like where else can they get direct access to guys like you? And we do this once a week for now,
No way.
maybe it's more, but I think it's so cool. Like, if I were in high school and I got to talk to guys like you, playing the big leagues, playing the Olympics, like, it's insane. And dude, thank you for answering the questions. I mean, like, for
Yeah.
taking the time to do this, and it's a little different than just a normal podcast. Like, I really appreciate you coming on and doing this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I mean, it's great to see young young guys, young baseball players especially, like that are taking it very seriously and have big aspirations, and putting in the work now to try and get better. Like, absolutely my pleasure to be here and to answer any questions that you guys want.
Yes, sir. So I have one question I asked Jansen when we started hitting together. Who's your I guess who is the most difficult pitcher you've ever faced, and where was the coolest place you've ever played, stadium wise?
Yokohama.
So yeah, Yokohama. Um, so I think it's really tough because, like I was just saying, I didn't give pitchers a lot of credit when I was hitting, and that was just part of my mindset that like there was nobody that was ever pitching where I was like, there's no way I'm going to get a hit off this guy. It was like whoever it is, like I don't care. I'm getting a hit. It doesn't matter. So, but there were people that I didn't get hits off of, and that's just a fact. So that I always end up saying that Steven Strasburg he was at
Oh,
least the guy that just had my number. So I faced him in college. We were the same year in college. We faced them. He went to San Diego State. We faced them at Petco in college, which was really cool. They knew they were going to beat us, and he was obviously the number one prospect in baseball. So we played at Petco just to kind of rub it in our faces, but didn't get any hits. I did walk one time, but didn't get any hits. And then I faced him. I think the next time I faced him was in my debut at National Park, which I think it's called. And so that was 0 for 4 with 3 punchies.
Well, that was your
Just
debut.
that was
That's
my
a good
debut.
segue into what I'm going to ask you next. That's awesome.
So right out of the gate, it was just like, well, that's definitely not an ideal start to your career. Three strikeouts, and then I faced him in spring trainings. I faced him in rehab starts in the minors a bunch of different times and never got a hit off him. And it wasn't like that anything was super overpowering, but everything was just good, located really well. There's just something very difficult about hitting him. Like, I don't know what it was. I don't know if there's something that now they pick up on TrackMan that would tell me why he was so difficult. Like, if his spin was super high, I don't know what it was. But like, he barely even needed to throw his changeup against me and like a lot of games, and I think that was his best pitch. So it was just very impressive. Just every game, it was like, can't get any hits, not even throwing his best pitch against me, doesn't even need it. So yeah, I think Steven Strasburg was the toughest guy that I ever faced.
it's wild.
Stadium, so some of my best games were actually in San Francisco. And so I grew up in Northern California, and in my opinion, it's the most beautiful stadium in baseball. Right on the bay, like unbelievable with the bridge in the background, the brick everywhere. Those brick stadiums, I think they're all designed by the same architect in PNC, in Pittsburgh, Baltimore. I think they're all the same guy. Like, they're just beautiful. And I actually had some of my best games there as well, which in front of my friends and family, which made it really cool. But being able to go to that stadium as a kid, and then get to play there in front of all my friends and family is just a dream come true, and it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's
That's
super cool. I'm a sucker for PNC. We've been up there twice in that we went up there first, I think, when Kutch was originally there with his dreads and stuff, which was awesome. He was elite. And but I want to get out to San Francisco, want to get out to Citizens Bank. I'm a huge Phillies fan, so but that's super cool.
Yeah, those are. I mean, that's the thing. Every stadium is so nice, especially now. Like every time they put in a new stadium, it's just like wow, it's unbelievable. The technology at all the fields now, the lights at every field is just ridiculous. You feel like you're playing day games at night. Every stadium you go to, like it's
Yeah,
so
it's so
amazing. I remember my first game. Just I didn't start my first game, and I was like, I want to just sit outside and watch because I'm in the first row at a major league stadium on the field, and it just was like I can't believe this sun went down. It doesn't feel like it at all. It feels like we're playing in the daytime, and unbelievable surfaces, like no bad hops anywhere. Yeah, it's the stadiums are by far my favorite part of being in the big leagues.
that's so
wow.
legit.
Ty, so I want you to walk me through like your debut. You've pretty much touched on it, but like how did that happen? How did you get the call? What was the experience? I mean, were you just like just walk me through that whole experience? Sounds like you didn't start your first game.
Yeah, didn't start the first game, but so I was in Colorado Springs, literally my least favorite AAA park to play in.
You're on the road
The
there?
On the road in Colorado Springs, I was playing for Vegas with the Mets at the time. In Colorado Springs, you have to walk down through the stands to get to the dugout from the clubhouse. Like it's not in. I don't think it's even in affiliated baseball anymore. I'm pretty sure it's
I
independent
don't
ball
think
now.
so. Yeah.
And yeah, so a horrible place to play. It's always freezing. The ball does fly, but regardless, like the batter's eye doesn't cover all the pitchers. Like they're throwing from the side of the batter's eye. Just a real like minor league stadium. But so it was actually I don't know if you remember TJ Rivera, but TJ was another guy that had been in the minors for a long time. He was a undrafted free agent and like just raked every year. And so me and TJ were both doing really well in the PCL with Vegas, and both of us like he may have been in like his seventh year. I think I was in my eighth year, and we're both just so close to getting the call. Neither of us knew who was going to get called up, and so the night before, so Wally Backman is our manager. Wally is an
Wow.
infamous manager. For if you don't know who he is, just Google Wally Backman, and
Worth a watch.
you're gonna find some insane ejections and just like a real character, part of the '86 Mets, all and another infamous team to be a part of for various reasons that you're not old enough to know about. But he, so he's wild. And so the night before, he calls TJ into his office, and everybody's going, "Oh, TJ's getting called up finally." And it's a throw off for some reason. Like I don't know why he called TJ in, which is like it's a huge thing. You're getting called into the manager's office. He just called him in to ask him if he wanted to play the next day a day game, and I don't know why, but so he does that, and then we have the day game the next day, um, and Wally comes up to me and he's like,
Oh,
so I walk down. We're still going.
yeah. I just cut off for like a little bit. Let me see what's going on. Looks like Brooksy, were you talking the whole time? Like you never lost connection?
No, no.
Okay, sweet. Well, I missed the whole thing, but I'm glad I'm back.
Okay.
Let me send it. Brooksy, you back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Were you here? Were you there the whole time?
I heard him the whole
Okay,
time.
well, that's amazing that I'm the host. I think it was my internet. I got kicked off. Wow. Okay,
Oh yeah, because
we'll keep going. Sorry about that.
no worries. So anyway, so we have a day game. I'd gone 0 for 4 the night before. We had a day game. I'm not in the lineup, so I walked down like 5 minutes before the game. Down, I got to walk through the stands down into the dugout. Got like my coffee. Just a real lazy day. Like struggled last night, but whatever. I'm still doing really well. and I get into the dugout. And so Wally's thing is that anybody that gets called up has to buy him a bottle of Dewar's, which is some kind of whiskey. I believe it's whiskey. I don't know if it's good or bad, but that's his thing. So I walk down into the dugout and just like, all right, I'm not playing today. I go sit down, and Wally's like, come over here. Like, okay, what's going on? Like, am I gonna have to play? Does somebody get hurt before the game? Like,
Oh
not ready at
no.
all. And he's just like, how are you doing? Like, how are you feeling? Like, good. Like, I'm fine. Just hanging out. And he's like, okay, go up and tell the clubby that you need to get me a bottle of Dewar's. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, go up, tell the clubby that you owe me a bottle of Dewar's. I'm like, I don't know what that is. He's like, go talk to the clubby. You got to go upstairs right now. Tell him you owe me a bottle of Dewar's. You're going to meet the team in Washington tomorrow. Congratulations. And I was like, it's just this whole show with Wally, of course. But I was just like, wow, like I finally am getting called up. Didn't expect it at all. All the team like rushed over and congratulating me. So it was really cool. So I walked back up, told the club, he was like, I don't even know what he's talking about, but this is what he said. And called my parents. It was like getting called up. Like, we don't know if it's for sure. Lucas Duda may have to go on the IL. But I'm flying out to Washington tomorrow. And so, went through all the steps, went home, packed everything up, flew out to Washington. He did end up having to go on the IL. And then so I got in the first game. I was not playing. David Wright was playing third base at the time, the captain. And so he hit a home run that day. So we end up winning the first game. The Mets did a thing after the game as well, where they gave out a championship belt for like the player of the game. It's a big thing with the team. So everybody at the end of the game comes in, and David Wright has like kind of a ceremony that's like, congratulations to this guy. He went 3 for 4 today, 2 RBIs, and he's the champion of the game. He gets the championship belt. He gets to shout out, different if somebody pitched well, whatever it is. But I didn't know that, so my dad flew out, and so I talked to him after the game, just like you do at a minor league game. Like, he came down to the third base dugout, talked to him. I came back in, and the pitching coach is like, "Hey, the captain's mad at you. The captain's looking for you." I was like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?" I was just talking to my dad. He's like, "Hey, he's mad." And so I walked in, and then it wasn't a huge deal, but David Wright is in there, just like, "Where were you? Like, we're looking for you, trying to give you a shout out. You're not even in the meeting after the game." I was like, my bad. Like, I'm talking to my dad. Like, it was my first game. I had no idea. Um, but yeah, so that was game one. It was awesome. And then next day, I got to start Fate, and then obviously face Strasburg. Um, yeah, it was
That's
very
surreal.
cool. Yeah, very surreal. And I like, truly, I just wanted to be out in the dugout the whole time. Even though there was a lot of pinch hitting at the time, double switches. It was National League, with before the DH, obviously. So a utility infielder and super utility guy, like, you could go in any position, anytime. Switch hitter, you could go into face any pitcher. Um, so yeah, that was. But so basically, the hitting coach and everyone was like, you're not gonna be able to sit out there the whole game. You have to come in and get in the cage and like make sure that you're ready for basically every like sixth inning is when the starter is probably going to be coming out of the game. So somebody's going to have to pinch hit for him. There's going to be a double switch possibly. And then there will be another pinch hit in like the eighth inning probably for when that spot comes up again. So yeah, so it was a grind, but um, yeah, but so fun to just be out there and truly watch a Major League Baseball game from right on the field.
That's so cool, dude. I mean, and yeah, the fact you're super utility and switch hitter, I mean, that is that is you can never relax on the bench up there. That's wild. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I was actually just thinking about this the other day too. I kind of forgot that I got up to pinch hit the first game also.
Mm.
Um, like, since I didn't end up hitting, the spot didn't come up. I just kind of like blocked it out of my memory. but I forgot that I had gotten up in, I think in the ninth inning of the first game to pinch hit against someone. I wish I remember who it was against, but um I didn't end up hitting. I think Bartolo started game one though, if I'm not mistaken, which I definitely could be. But I remember him being on deck because obviously the pitchers were still hitting, and it was in Washington, and fans like trying to heckle him, and they're like, Bartolo, how many families do you have? Like, where's your other family? Just heckling him, and like, how many families do you have? And he like responded to them, and he just like turned around and was like, three families. I don't know. It is just funny. He was such a character,
That's
just a
hilarious.
like a larger than life character, and honestly, not that bad of a hitter. He just never swung most of the time.
And I heard Bartolo Colon was like a freak athlete, the most flexible dude. He could just pop down and do the splits. Is that right?
Yeah, do you remember the play that he made behind his back
Yes.
Mhm.
um
Smooth.
to Soup, who was also on our
Soup, that's
21
right.
team? Yeah. But I loved seeing that highlight too. Yeah, he was, and that was the crazy thing. Like he truly was a good hitter. He just didn't feel like swinging most of the time. So he would go up there if there was no one on base, if there was no chance to drive in a run, he just wouldn't swing. Like, I'm not going to waste the energy. He hit that one home run his entire career that season. So it's like just not going to waste the time. Just throw me three strikes is fine. I'm not going to run to first base. Like, pitcher's hitting was very, very weird. But yeah, he would give himself like one swing in at bat maybe, and he would just take a G hack, and then if he fouled it off, that was it. He wouldn't swing again.
That's so awesome. But I mean, you just see his body, you don't think athlete. But the fact that he
Not at
could
all.
do all these things, it's amazing.
He was a great athlete. Yeah,
That's
that highlight of is a Justin Bour grounder, and then he goes behind his back to Soup. That was great.
I didn't realize that Soup in that video. I got to go back and see that. That's classic.
Hmm.
That's great. Well, bro, I do have a question about like a couple more things, but as you were a player, what was one thing I work on with these guys is what we're going to work on more is kind of developing their own routine. That's one thing I find these younger hitters don't have much of one. And so, what did your routine as far as getting ready to hit look like? Did you like tee? Did you like flips? I mean, what was your prep work before you went to the cage as well?
So I think that I mostly played in an era where we didn't know anything, unfortunately. So I think it's a lot more useful to talk about my routine from last year when I was getting ready for the WBC. Because I had been hitting already with Wallenbrock
And I
for
want
a
to ask
whole
you about
off
that.
season. Yeah, which I mean, life changing. But getting ready for the WBC, I actually knew what I was trying to do now. Where like when I was playing, if I ever went to the cage and I hit off the tee, I put it in one spot, I put it down and in, and I just wanted to make sure that I could hit it to the like low oppo basically, to make sure that I was staying. I mean, staying inside the ball was what I was trying to feel. So whether that's a term that works for you or not is up to everybody on their own. But that was the thing that I was trying to feel, like to make sure that it was like tailing to with like backspin to the oppo gap basically. Um but as I finally like learned things about hitting with Craig, so I think so basically I was talking about this the other day as well. Top hand is the by far the most important thing for me from both sides of the plate. Making sure that the top hand was essentially the path. Like for me, the top hand is fully the path, and the bottom hand is like the rudder. Just kind of steering everything and keeping it online. So top hand, making sure that I'm feeling like the Nike swoosh coming through, making sure that I just kind of get like natural barrel depth, to maybe to explain too far into it, but top hand, and then this is all no stride. So and then catch, like a catch drill, so where you're just trying to catch the ball on the barrel. So essentially, like, to put it on screen, you're just trying to do this basically, like flush contact and just right there, and you stop. So that, and then you turn that into where you turn with your body a little bit, and then that, and then you extend out toward the pitcher. So that's kind of like the progression of, I'm trying to make sure that I'm doing everything sequenced well. So I don't want to like over explain
No,
this and
keep
make it
going,
seem
dude. Honestly,
more complicated than it is. It's all
are you
just,
you're using your game bat for that. You talk about the catch drill and go from there. Is that all with your game bat or short bat?
you can, or there's, or like a skinnier bat, like a 32-inch lighter bat,
We've
is
got one of
good
those.
for top hand. Yeah, or if you want to go like halfway on your regular bat, just somewhere that's not too heavy. But yeah, so it basically one hand and then catch stuff. And then I start to work more on the lower half, like the gather and everything. And my basic thoughts with the gather was that I wanted my hip to come up, my back hip to come up, so that I'm tilting everything downhill, as opposed to like we're going this way, as opposed to setting up uphill and then like sliding forward. So you go downhill, land into my front side enough, and then I'm good from there basically. So that sounds like a lot of things. That's
Was your
one
routine?
hand catch drill and then just landing into my front side. Those are like the main few thoughts that, where like I haven't even really taken a full swing in that yet. And again, like, I don't know if that sounds complicated or not, but it's very easy rhythm. And it's just like, those are the kind of the thoughts that I want to be cultivating in my head as I'm starting to get into a full swing, where I'm not even, I'm not thinking about different pitches really. Like, I'm just trying to hit everything up the middle, low, and with good contact. And so, yeah. So I guess if it does seem complicated, it wasn't because I had done enough with Craig where I'm watching other hitters do it. I know what they're trying to look for, what we're looking for with them. So I know how to make my own corrections better and how to look for the things that I'm trying to feel. And so basically you just kind of settle on like whatever couple of things work for you. And in my head, I'm just, when I get to full swing, I'm setting up with my bat in my top hand, just like I'm doing a one hand drill. And then I just put the bottom hand on it real light as just a guide. So I'm basically just in a game, like I'm doing a top hand drill, and then all I have to do, hike the back hip, land into my front side, and that's it. And then I swing at whatever pitch is coming.
As far as that sequence, um, is that something that Craig does pretty much across the board with everybody? Is there some hitters that is not a good sequencing for, or is that pretty much across the board not a bad way for guys to start their day?
Well, I think those are just my feels, because, and that's just from the right side, where I have certain hip limitations, like my external rotation, which is just my ability to, like, as I turn to the ball, my everything wants to turn at the same time. So I spin open naturally early, just because I don't have the flexibility to do that. So I have to make more of like a scissor. And personally, that's the only way I could do it. Some guys with hip limitations have to probably stride open a little bit to have space. I had to go this way essentially with my feet and just try and land with my front foot square so that I wouldn't open too early. And so like those are all very personal feels for me, where depending on your mobility, like for you, you're way more mobile than me, so you probably would have completely different feels. Like your ability to externally rotate, probably, like you would probably have to think about not rotating at all just because of how mobile you are, or at least that was my perception
No, that's
of your
correct.
mobility.
Like I like the Bregman style. I'm going to leave my shoulders and my hips pointed straight ahead, and
Mm-hmm.
that has been really big for me. So I agree. I mean, my limitations were more on, and I feel like it's probably more common is the internal side for my right hip especially. But just with my tennis background, I felt like my actual rotation and turning, my external rotation was less of an issue for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, and then so I would think that probably the biggest difference in what you would want to be doing differently in that is the way that you're gathering. In that maybe you're going to be more of like you're presetting your hips to rotate, or you're going to gather with more of a like where you're internally rotating more
Yes.
in your gather, like as it's happening, where I was going more linear with just
Mm.
going up, and then as I'm going towards the plate, internally rotate a little bit with keeping my front foot square. So that was sort of the way that I counter rotated as I was going forward, as opposed to like if you watch Bobby Witt, where the first thing that he does is preset internally and then go forward, where I was going like this, and then sort of as I'm going forward, like internally rotating.
Don't
So
you do water bag stuff to help with that kind of counter move? I'm a huge fan.
yeah, water bag's great. Yeah, I like the water bag in front where you're doing essentially like a med ball toss. I think it's a
Mhm.
really, so that was did what okay, no, Kian was there last year. But so one of the guys last year with us, Colton's younger brother Kian
Yeah,
Wong.
I know.
Um so so one of the things that he really liked was thinking about gathering, like you're doing a med ball toss, because your med ball is like the same idea as a water bag,
Space
where you've
out
got
over the plate, almost that way.
it, but also the way that you're gathering back into it, where you're not like swaying back to go
Yes, yes, yes,
forward.
yes.
So you've got this weight here, you're basically just going in place, like you may have a tiny bit of negative sway back, but for the most part you're not going this way, you're going this way into it. So you're like loading up and then going forward. So yeah, so water bag and med ball are both like are really good cues for that, of things that to kind of take it out of like I have to load to one spot or something like that. It's like just let the rhythm be a little more fluid, I guess, and sort of in place, as opposed to trying to put everything on one side and then throwing it all back to the first side.
Do you feel like are we Brooks? I'm gonna get to you. Do you feel like we're all way too focused on the load? We were talking today about like if you we've taken so many swings, and what we realized today, or I hit with a group of guys today, and man, it was a big unlock day for everyone. And the only focus was we figured out what we were thinking about and we eliminated all of it and just focused on the exhale of our breath at contact. And we want to hit the ball hard with that breath and just eliminating all the other stuff where I feel like myself and other guys, there's way more thoughts going on with our load and where we're trying to attack the ball, that if we just turn our brain off and focus on one other thing, like today was the breath, the load gather, all of it was super small, super clean, and it just felt like it cleaned up a lot of things. Are we too focused on the importance of a load?
Yeah, I think in a lot of cases that makes a lot of sense. I think the more you make the swing about making good contact, the easier the rest of it gets, because it becomes a lot more natural. You only focus on getting the barrel to the ball. You as long as you know what good contact is, I think you're going to put your body in a good place to hit, and it's going to make everything else much easier. I think a lot of people get very focused on trying to figure out what gathering into their back hip is, their back glute, like trying to figure out what that means, where their weight is supposed to be, where they should start. And if the only thing you're focused on is landing in a good position and making good solid contact, then it cleans up everything else, because you're not worried about hitting the ball 120 miles an hour, which none of us unfortunately are capable of, at least right now. And for us, we never will be. But when you're worried about good contact, being balanced, keeping things simple, like everything else gets cleaned up. And I think that it's a really good way to figure out where your body wants to be naturally. And you don't have to worry about what your feels are, what how that relates to what your hitting coaches feels were when they played, because it's all going to be different. And the more you can, I'm a really big fan of taking like 75-80% swings and just making it as absolutely as smooth as possible and trying to get the best contact that you can with the smoothest swing possible, because you're going to de-tense, you're not going to be as tense, whatever that word is. You're going to just loosen up, be fluid, and just let your body sort of take over naturally, and then you can start to worry about some of the finer points once you're in a good position to hit. I don't watch any swings that aren't hits, unless I'm looking for something specifically with a hitter. If I want to find out how a hitter swings and what they do well and don't do well, I'm looking only at hits, because I want to see them on time, and I want to see them in a balanced position where you can actually figure out what's happening in the swing. Because most of the time when guys make outs, they're late, they're early, they're off balance for one reason or another, and so it gets really hard to figure out like what's actually going on. So yeah, I think you're definitely right about that. That the easier you make it, the more well, the easier it's going to become, and the more you're going to figure out what the body wants to do naturally of each individual hitter.
Man, and that's cool too, talking about you only watch hits when you're looking for something, because I feel like this game beats us up so much. And I have guys where it's like, man, I had a bad game, watch these, like, tell me what's wrong. And it's like, well, dude, it feels like something different. There's different things wrong with all these pitches, but it's cool to get a baseline of like, let's find the good ones. Let's watch those, see what you're doing well, and focus on those. And then if we really need to clean something up, like, we'll go address those. But that's pretty cool insight that you dropped that. Brooks has a question, if you don't mind. Hit it,
Of
Brooks.
course.
I actually do not have a question. I actually have to get off the call to go eat
Oh,
some
my
dinner.
bad, bro.
No, it's all good. I just wanted to let you know. I just wanted
Yeah,
to raise
man.
my hand. I did
Enjoy
want to
that.
know.
Enjoy that
Uh,
SEC prep.
Mr. Kelly, I appreciate your time. This is super cool for me, and Jansen, obviously, thanks for setting it up. So
Of course, hey, my pleasure. I'm happy that you were able to make it, and good luck. I'm gonna keep following and see where you end up.
thank you, sir. I appreciate it. See y'all.
See you, Brooksy. Yeah, so that's today was really cool. And that was something that, and you've obviously discovered as a coach, is that like we've had things as players that we felt and experienced, but like we can't just push those same things on these guys. Like they might have something totally different, right? But
100%. They're also coming from a different place than we were, where at least my view of a lot of young hitters is that they're just set up way different than, I mean, especially the way I was, where everything that we were told is that you've got to hit down, we got to hit singles, hit the
yep.
ball on the ground, like line drives and balls on the ground were kind of the only acceptable outcomes. So when you're coming from a place of where everything is super downhill and super steep, then you're going to need to try and get more uphill in one way or another with one of those things, or multiple of those things. So if all the guys nowadays are coming up and thinking, I've got to hit the ball in the air, I've got to hit home runs, that's the complete opposite of everything that we were ever told.
Yes.
So they may need to hear a lot of the things that we were taught, that may not have worked for us all the time. So it's a constant balance. Yeah. So like there's always a balance, and you can't always go, well, this is the thing that worked for me, it's going to work for everybody. It was a feel that you had. I mean, it's very easy to just look at like A-Rod's feels where he's trying to take the barrel directly to the ball. It obviously didn't look like that when he played, but it's the thing that worked for him.
Yep.
And those feels are going to work for some people and not for others. And I think it's just a constant balance of like, you're too far forward, you got to think be back. You're too far back, you got to think be more forward. So it's different for everybody.
What are the biggest things that, if you could summarize like some takeaways of you working with Wallabrock and those expert dudes, like what are some the biggest things that you have learned that now you can take into your players?
I mean, so I think to not get too
Well, it's just
technical
you and
because
me
there
now, so you can get as technical as you want, or I mean, it's up to you. Whatever you want to say, man. This you're in a safe
for
space.
sure. I think that the easiest way, I think the biggest takeaways were, so like in regards to fluidity in the swing. That's the thing that I appreciate more than anything in hitters is just fluidity. And that's like whether it's a hand pump and the hand, so like just think Mookie Betts where everything is fluid. There's just this rhythm to it, and it's like a connection the whole way, and like connection and stretch. And there's always something moving, and there's nothing that looks too tense. And it just is like all kind of, it's just all working together. And so I think that that sort of fluidity is something that I'm always trying to preach to guys, that they forget, because everybody is looking for like, okay, I feel comfortable with my hands here, and then I have to get them here. And it's like, well, there's, you start here and then you go here, and there's no fluidity. You disconnect immediately. And so to have something that's just like, just let everything be as loose as possible. Like I said, just try and hit the ball as hard as you can with the smoothest swing that you can possibly take. I think is the easiest way to clean up so many different things. If you just try and be fluid and make good contact, you are going to put yourself in a very good spot to hit. And
How do you
that's,
train that fluidity? Is that with the lighter bat? Like I'm a big fan. I don't know how you feel about it, but the guys over in Tennessee at 108 Performance, I went to hit with them last offseason. And I had several big unlocks, but one of the ones was using a wiffle ball bat. That super light bat, and allowed me to just whip it however I wanted. And all of a sudden, all these different moves that in my head felt super ridiculous, like Gary Sheffield, it felt. But you've got the TrackMan camera, and I'm like, dude, that looks like it looks like I could use that in the game. Like it wasn't extreme like I thought. So I've used that with pretty much all my guys in person now. Like one of our first sessions, we'll do that. And man, it is a big unlock for these guys just to tap into that flow and find these natural positions. But I'm curious other ways that y'all find that.
yeah, I think that's great. Switching up the bats, like I think using a short bat also can be very good for, the same idea, that make it easy on your body to take a good swing. Um, when the bat is too heavy, or it's too far, like it's too end loaded or whatever it is, it can be really tough to make good moves or make moves that work for your body. So yeah, I think that was something that, as I was getting ready to play, last year, that I would choke up very far on the bat, left-handed especially, to try and make it, just to try and make it easier on myself, to again, not to get like too technical, that of the my bottom hand was trying to lead on the left side, so the more I could
You're throwing
get
hand.
that hand, yeah, closer to where the weight is at, the easier it was to swing, basically. So I wasn't like losing the barrel too much, or just trying to like drag it through with my front arm, and kind of, just pulling off to the side because I'm right-handed. Um, so yeah, so I think that kind of stuff can be really good. And then just training, taking those 75-80% swings where, you just kind of let your body take over, and you focus on like the output, as opposed to all of the positions that you're in, and trying to like hit certain positions,
Yeah.
trying to feel that your hands get to a certain spot, like just
Let
let
them
them go
flow.
wherever they
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
Okay, I'm curious because for me, the tip made more sense than a hand pump. But I have some guys at the tip, it's like, oof, that's not a good look for you. Like how do y'all teach the pump, and how do you specifically teach like syncing up with your front side with that pump? Like are you constantly kind of meeting your front knee and knob kind of together, crunch in the center, and then let them expand wherever they want? Or how are y'all kind of, what feels y'all like? Because the Dodgers, I'm obsessed, even Oklahoma City. Um, they all have similar, not everybody, but their pump just looks so natural and it's so deliberate and under control. I haven't found a way personally. I want to go see Emmanuel this offseason with a couple guys, but how are y'all teaching that? What are some feels that you're looking for with the pump specifically? Like I think of Fiducia big time. Like there's other guys
Hmm.
to do it.
Yeah, I think that the knob to knee can be good. Like I think if you just look at Will Smith swing,
Oh, favorite.
like I think
I need
just
to talk to that guy.
yeah. And he went through a lot of different swings in the minors too. I know that he like has put up way better big league numbers than he ever did in the minors because they always had him working on a lot of different things. So it's very cool to like to see that process eventually pay off. But I think that his setup and swing is a really good example of that, like just finding connection to separate the same way that like if you're pitching and you brought your knee up and your hands down at the same time and then you're kind of coming in and then separating this way. Um, like I think that idea is really easy to come by for, especially if you throw on the same side that you hit from, is that you're going to find that connection a lot easier if you just think that you're like a pitcher basically. You're lifting you're lifting knee up, hands down at the same time, finding connection, and then like separating from there as you start to like move towards the pitcher, or if you were throwing like towards the plate. So I think
That's
that's
really
really
interesting.
easy.
Because for me, I always like to hit before I threw. I felt like throwing, obviously it was natural, but it felt like I got in different positions after I threw and then went and hit. But maybe I could have blended more of that sort of thing. Like, hey, I'm going to take these same kind of ideas of blending that just to play catch, and that might show up in my swing as well. Never thought about that.
Yeah, no, I mean throw drills definitely we do a lot of those. Like especially if, I mean if you throw well and you sequence well naturally throwing, you're just skipping a rock, whatever it is, like just that idea of again of just like of moving sort like coming together and then moving naturally and in sequence, like most guys are going to find a lot easier throwing because you're not thinking about where your bat is at. You don't have to try and hit a pitch. You just are doing it naturally and you're like, if I want to throw it, this is how I'm going to throw, because I know that I have to like open up a certain amount to get my body like in position to throw, and where you may have certain like doubts of, okay, the pitch is coming in, I can't open up too early or whatever it is, just as an example, like your body is gonna just get into whatever position it needs to be able to either throw, and then if you just kind of like apply that to hitting, it's the same basic mechanics. It's your body that's telling you how to do it. You just have to kind of go, okay, I'm gonna be in a good position to hit. The pitch is gonna be coming in, but if I just let my body do it naturally, it's gonna be a lot easier, and just kind of get past that kind of overthinking of like the pitch is coming in and I need to be here or I can't be too much of whatever. Like just let it happen naturally, and then get really good at that.
Man, it's so nice to hear that those natural positions, that is something that's a big focal point for y'all over there, because that's been so good for me and for these kids I work with as well. Like Brooks, he used to really push his hands back to a spot, and that was the first thing that he moved. And that was me in my career as well. It was like, I got to get these ready. I want my top hand to be able to attack from the top, and just kind of setting his hands where they want and using a light bat. It's been really cool to see. And hey, man, just let your hands, let them hang out where they want. Like they don't need to go back. They're going to go back on their own. But you look at other guys. Like, man, what's your take on, like, I know Judge is a freak, like he's just a monster. But these guys that are more these back leg hitters, like I want to have Teacher Man on. He's so hated by some people, and I just want to know, like, because I've had some teammates, like I don't know if you know Derek Hill at all. He's with the Marlins now, I think.
Okay.
This guy was one of the best hitters I've ever seen in AAA, and he works all day of getting all of his weight on his back leg, and he kind of lets that front leg just hover in his work. Machine, everything
Hmm.
just hovers forward and swings. And when he
Hmm.
gets stance, I mean, he's got everything on that back leg. And he says that he doesn't do the snap or think that, but that he really likes a lot of teacher man stuff. And so I'm
Hmm.
curious, some of these guys, like, how are y'all working on having, I know it's not the same across the board, but I mean, is y'all set up, is it more 50-50? Do you want some more weight on your backside, or is just truly case to case based on body types and whatever else?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely always body types and like what people do with their gather and how they're able to feel um gathering into their backside. I think that like feels are feels, and if something works for one guy, like it's probably because his body is set up to move more like that, or it's easier to get into whatever positions that he wants to, or possibly that he's been doing something too far on the opposite side of that, and now that puts him in a more neutral position anyway. And like if he feels like he's only using his back foot, then whether he is or not is a something completely separate to whatever the feel is. So I think disregarding any feels is not a good place to start from. Even like no matter who the messenger is, and whether what sort of person they are, and if they say that that's the only thing, like it's nothing is the only thing. I think that's the point. Everybody is different. Some things are going to work for some people, some are not. And so I think at least starting from that point is good, because you you don't know what's going to work for you. And you don't know how your brain is going to sync up with your body on certain feels. um you
That's
know
why you have to
if you're,
explore, right?
yeah, yeah, you've got to try as many things as possible. And I know a lot of hitting coaches get upset uh when hitters talk to other hitters and try and give each other feels, because most of the time, like the only thing a lot of hitters know is what thing works for them, and they go, all you got to do is this, and then another hitter tries it, and it's like, well, of course it didn't work, because you guys move completely differently. And like the hitting coach knew that it wasn't going to work, but I think it's fine to try whatever thing, because you're going to learn something about yourself. If it doesn't work, you don't have to keep doing it. I
Yeah,
don't think there's any reason to be scared of trying certain things, as long as you're able to process what's happening and learn either why it's working or why it's not working. Um, so
that's a cool way of looking
like
at that. I didn't realize that that really bothered some hitting coaches. I'm constantly talking to, why would you not talk to your teammates about what's going
for
on?
sure.
They're watching you more than anybody.
Totally. And that was like all we have had for most of our careers is you
Exactly.
talk to your teammate and like, oh, you just got to do this. You just got to think hit down. You got to think hit up. You got to think whatever it is. And most of the time it's not going to work for the other guy, but on like that one time that it does work,
Special.
or even if yeah, it's special, or even if it doesn't, you've at least learned a thing about yourself. Like, okay, I can't do that, but I did like this one thing, and I took something else from it actually that I didn't think I was going to. So yeah, I think always trying new stuff is it's great, as long as you're able to like continue to process what is happening and why, and what you can take from it, and hopefully make yourself better from it.
That's cool. Are you a free agent next year, or are you signed on another year for the Rays?
I haven't signed anything yet, but yeah, I mean the plan right now is to be back here with the Rays,
Great.
and so yeah, I mean I've loved the organization. Like I think it's a really good organization, and
Sure.
um, I've learned a lot. Obviously, it was like an amazing experience to be in the DR this year. Met a lot of great people, and um, yeah, so that's the plan right now. Keep
I want
keep on
you,
going.
have you been around Brady North much at all?
I met him the other day, but that was all.
Dude,
Yeah.
if you ever need a little icebreaker to start the convo, he helped me out a lot in 21. Rob hooked me up with him, and one FaceTime with him. He gave me a couple drills and feels and totally turned my season around. He is, I think, one of the best. So anytime,
Yeah. That's awesome.
he's really, really good. And
Yeah,
he's
that's
like us,
awesome.
dude. Like he's very open to things, and I don't know. I think he'd be a good guy to. He would love talking to you too, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to. I met him the other day at we had our award ceremony out at Tropicana, so I got to meet him very briefly on the field.
That's
Seemed
cool.
like a very nice guy. Yeah, he knew who I was, so
That's great.
it's a good place to start.
For sure, right. All right, man. Well, hey, I can't thank you enough, dude. This was really cool. And just having Brooks and Kate on and you answering questions, like I think it's a really, really cool deal. So seriously,
Of course,
appreciate it.
yeah. Hey, my pleasure.
All right, man. Well, shoot, dude. It's good to catch up with you too. It's been forever.
Same. Whenever you want to talk again, hit me up. I've
All right.
got just this week and then I'll be out of here off season. So
Are you training with Wallen Rock and everybody, that same group all off season?
he's in Arizona now, so I'll go out there when I
Ooh,
can. Yeah. So I got
really?
to yeah,
In
are you gonna be in
Scottsdale?
Arizona?
I'm
Yeah.
going at the end of October, but maybe are you gonna be up there then? Like I think I'm going the 24th.
I'll probably still be in LA.
Okay.
Yeah, because I gotta stay home for a little while.
Yeah, you do. Congrats on the
It's been
engagement.
a while. Of
I
course,
know.
thank you.
Well, shoot, that's an easy fight, man. If I could ever spend time with you and get to be around those guys, I would be an idiot to not take advantage of that. So,
Yeah, if you're gonna be out there, let me know.
okay.
Because
Well,
he
dude,
lets people go watch, so
sweet. All right,
yeah.
bro. Well, I'm gonna sign off, man. Really appreciate it. Thanks, bro.
Of course. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. See you time.
All right, brother.